Phil Wickham, one of the biggest voices in contemporary Christian music and a worship leader that has started from humble beginnings to recently selling out stadiums on his Summer Nights tour.
I think deep down, I cared more about how people saw me as an artist rather than serving the church, which is, I've always been called. I remember the moment when I was in, it's another great one of those stories, but I don't.
No, share it, bro. Go.
Well, okay.
And in this conversation, Phil Wickham opens up about how the rise of becoming a Christian celebrity has affected him.
And 9,000, 10,000 people were coming out a night to these arenas.
Wow.
I've had to work at keeping my heart simple.
Yeah.
I have a lot of words from the Lord from people, and sometimes I'm like, was that from the Lord?
The tension of traveling the world and being away from his family.
The amount of times people have come up to her, like, do you have any idea how blessed you are? I'm just a dude that just like was impatient and yelled at my kids or whatever, and like did something so not holy that morning or whatever.
And how he was almost completely stripped of everything he's ever knew when this happened.
The doctors were just being real, saying, hey, like, just be prepared for this to heal in whatever way it wants to heal, you know? And so
was there a chance you might have lost your ability to sing? Yeah. But before we get into that, guys, my name is Ruslan. This channel exists to encourage, empower, and inspire you to live a life that blesses God. So if you're not new here, hit that subscribe button. What are you doing with your life? All right, let's get into this conversation. Phil Wickham.
Wow, what an introduction, man. Thank you.
Man, thank you for being here.
It's wild pulling up to your house because I went to school like a mile away from here. And I had
literally a mile away from, maybe less than a mile.
Yeah, this is the first time we've hung out. We got breakfast. We've known each other. But getting to know your story and where you live and how connected our lives are is wild. But like being in this neighborhood, I almost blew myself up with my friend trying to light his fireplace with way too much gasoline. Like I had to go to the hospital. I had burns up my arm.
Real?
He had burns all up his face.
For real?
It was for real.
Sheesh, man.
Anyways, and then we would toilet paper people's houses around here.
Yeah.
This is like my stomping ground. So it's amazing to meet you here, bro.
That's awesome, man. I didn't tell you this at breakfast. We had a fantastic breakfast, by the way, and just chopped it up, and it was really good. But I didn't tell you this story. So we actually did something together a long time ago.
What was it?
All right, so this, let's see if you remember this.
Sorry,
all right,
you didn't tell me yet.
It was Easter. I think it was Easter Sunday.
Okay.
It was some big day at the Rock Church.
Okay.
And they had me up there doing spoken word poetry. And the plan was for me to finish this worship spoken word, and that was going to crescendo right into the big downbeat with Phil Wickham dropping into a song, right?
Yeah.
But what had happened was I was out there. We rehearsed it or practiced, or maybe we didn't rehearse it. I don't remember.
Man, I have no memory of this.
Okay, it's okay though, because this is good.
Are you sure it was me?
It was 100% you. It was 100% you. And then you had to use the restroom.
This is very normal pre-show Phil. Dude, the older I get, bro. It used to be just number one, but now like in my late 30s, it's like number two.
So I'm up there and I finished this spoken word and I'm riffing and it's crescendoing and the band's behind me and then I get to the last line and I'm looking out of my peripheral.
This is not true.
This is so true.
You dreamed this, bro.
No, I could get Pastor Miles to co-sign this. Pastor Ricky was there, and I say the last line,
and
then I say the last line again, and then I say the last line
I'm in the
again,
bathroom,
and then finally you come out and jump into the song.
Oh my goodness.
I was roasting you before. I can't believe you don't remember this.
I have no memory of this. Honestly,
this is like 2009 to 2011-ish, somewhere in that window.
That's a while ago now. Okay. So I don't feel as bad. If
you do remember doing stuff at the Rock.
Yeah, I've done stuff at the Rock growing up.
Because that would have been really awkward.
But that
you're like, dude, I've never performed.
I get like I get that pre-show stage fright every time. It's like without fail, I got to hit the bathroom. But I probably didn't. I bet everybody was so sweet there. They didn't tell me that I was like late. They're just like, hey, Phil, you probably should get on stage now. You know?
Yeah, you ran out and then
maybe I knew I was late.
And then you saved me, and I was like, cool.
Well, it doesn't sound like I saved you. But you probably with that last line. I'm sure if it was it's your spoken word. I'm sure it was epic, and so I bet it felt really intentional.
To the crowd.
Yeah.
To me, I was horrified.
Were you repeating that last line?
Where is the worship leader?
I'm so sorry,
I'm so
man.
scared. Yeah. So anyway, that was a funny story. I didn't share that with you when we were at breakfast.
Has that colored your view of me?
No, that was just always
decade?
Whenever people talk about worship or you would come up, that was just always
that guy left me hanging.
My story. I got a Phil Wickham story.
Well, we got to do it again. And I gotta do it better next time. But it's good to be on here, man. Thank you.
Thank you for being on here. So
Can I tell you my first? So obviously I've met you before.
Okay.
But in the recent years, we were at our kids go to the same little homeschool co-op together.
That's right.
And I saw this cool guy standing in front of me on orientation day, and I thought that's a cool dad. You know, he doesn't look like he probably doesn't do like real estate. He probably does something like a little bit more artistic. You know, not that there's anything wrong with real estate. I just had that thought. And then a pastor's wife who I know, Jen Horning, who pastors the church with Benji Horning that I go to. She's like, "Is that Ruslan guy?" And I'm like, "Who?" Yeah. And she's like, "Check it out." And I like, check me out. Yeah. I checked you out on Instagram, and it's like this legit podcaster guy, and the rest is history. Yeah. Now we're buddies.
You know, I saw you at that thing, and by the way, this is why I've been talking to the team. So we used to have this drop in the podcast, the Ruslan, right? Because everybody calls me Ruslan or Russian.
Oh, is it Ruslan?
It's Ruslan.
Sorry.
That's okay. So
Ruslan from Baku.
Yeah, that's right. Well, thank you for saying Baku, right? So I saw you at the same thing, and I was sitting there, I was like, I think that's Phil. And I was like, I'm not gonna go up to this dude. You had your family with you. I have my.
That's
family
a weird
with
way
me.
to kind of say hi,
Yeah,
right?
I was like, this is weird. Like, and I don't ever want to assume people know who I am, you know. And so I was like, I'm sure I'll see him around some other time. And I literally leave, and that same day you shot me a DM, and I was like, oh, this dude knows who I am. Like, dude, I felt so bad for not coming up and saying hello. So that was super cool, man. And
I hate not. Isn't it the worst though when you should know who someone is, and someone's talking about them and you don't, and they're like, it's like, how have I missed this for so many years?
Are you at that spot where you meet people in public and you don't know if they know you or if you've met them before or if they're fans, so you just pretend to be extra friendly as if you've met them?
Yeah, I try to be friendly. I'm kind of a nice guy.
You are a nice guy.
I think in general,
you're a nicer guy than I am.
I think in general I'm pretty friendly, but I usually assume the only reason I would assume we'd met is if they said we met before. I'd be like, oh, I don't remember where, you know?
Yeah, see, I just pretend like I've met everybody. I just smile at everybody, pretend to have met everybody.
Yeah, you let people talk. When people come up to you, that's actually what I've learned.
Yeah, and I ask questions. I
used to think it was my responsibility to like, oh, they're coming up to me, now I've got to give them a memory, or like but I just now I'm like, just chill, let them say what they want to say thank you. Yeah. And the rest is history, you know.
That's awesome. Man, we had a great breakfast and we talked about just and
we talked about a lot.
Talked about a lot. And I don't want this to sound like as if these things are the only things that matter, right? Because we're going to talk about Jesus and just your heart for the Lord and your heart for worship. But your explosion within the last couple years has been phenomenal. You and Brandon doing the amazing arena tours.
Yeah, Brandon Lake.
Yeah. KB was on some of those days with you guys.
Awesome.
Shout out to KB.
Incredible.
Good friend of mine. And it's just been so fun seeing these things and remembering, like, you've always kind of had, it's weird when we're from the same region because I don't really understand the magnitude of where someone is. But, like, we've always kind of heard, like, Phil Wickham, he's awesome, worship, awesome, right? So I've kind of grown up hearing that as far back as I can remember. Worship, Phil Wickham comes up, right?
Just being around this area.
Just being around this area. But then like really seeing it like just explode. And it's been so dope. So you were sharing some of this at breakfast. Tell me how like it kind of went from worship music, CCLI world, which we'll unpack what that is later, touring churches to arenas. Yeah. Average of 10,000 people a night.
Yeah, which that was a new thing for me. And I share that. I don't take the glory for that for sure. It's obviously the Lord just opening up doors. And then also I shared that tour with my good buddy Brandon Lake, which I don't think it would be 10,000 people a night without him. But yeah, so I've been doing this for a long time. When I was 13, I started leading worship. I'm 39 now. Did my first independent record because someone granted us $40,000 for us to be able to get this record done when I was 18. Can
we say who that was, or is that supposed to be?
Sure. Yeah. Well, the family that owns the Stussy clothing company. Oh, do it. Is that good?
Your face was a little covered up.
Yeah. The family that owns the Stussy company, they're actually, their last name is the Sinatras. They're amazing people, Christian people. I grew up knowing them. Actually, as a pastor's kid, many can relate, whether you're a pastor kid or not, but we didn't have much like I was like Target clothes or no clothes. And so for us to know the Stussy family, we'd get to go to the factory and they would let us pick out some outfits.
They made sure you guys were fresh.
Yeah, which was really kind of them because my dad was definitely on that 1990s worship leader salary, you know.
Being a pastor's kid has to be, you know, financially not the most like lucrative, even though people may think it's like that. But you guys, it sounds like you had fairly humble beginnings.
Very humble, definitely month to month. You know, living in a 1,200 square foot condo for most of my upbringing with my parents. You know, with me and three kids and my parents. But I didn't. I mean, I had everything I needed. I was happy and loved Jesus from an early age, and started playing guitar at 13. Put out an independent record when I was 18. Never sent it out anywhere, but somehow organically it made it to different places. Super short version of the story. Signed with the label when I was 21, and from so I'm 39 now, so however many years that is, 17 years or so. Did I do the math correctly? People are gonna roast me for it's 17 years, right? 21 to 39. Am I right? 18. Oh, gosh.
Yeah. I'm a public school kid. So.
Christian school kid. So 18 years of just like, there was always opportunity. There was always like offers from people to come and play this conference or be part of this event. But I honestly never, for years, I never thought of myself as like an artist that was going to go and sell hard tickets. And then all of a sudden, man, the last couple of years since 2020, I think it was just the right songs, the right time. But obviously, the favor of God was on it, and I could sense it. I remember telling my wife, even in 2020, when no one was out touring, I just felt like I think God's got something new and another level. She would 100%. Verify that I was saying that. I just feel like the songs that are coming, and I think he's going to do a new thing this next decade. I think he wants me to be a part of it. I just had that real confidence, and I didn't know what that meant, like numbers-wise. I just felt like something new was coming. And then these songs, this song called Battle Belongs was written, and Hymn of Heaven, and another song called House of the Lord, and then this whole record called Hymn of Heaven was written almost all in 2020, and it felt so right for that moment. We started putting out those songs, and I could just, even when we put the songs out, I'd never gotten that kind of response from music before. And then we started touring again once things started opening up. Even in 2020, it wasn't really open, but it was open in Texas and open in Florida. And so we went there, selling out rooms halfway because you couldn't sell it more than halfway, because the city wouldn't allow it. Sure. And people were just showing up, and the churches were playing these songs, and you just could kind of sense like I'm not doing anything that different. I'm still singing songs about Jesus. I did hire a new media guy to do Instagram, so that all looks better. But other than that, like, there's nothing much different. Just had a great team around me, and we kept just pouring into what God had in front of us. And then a few years later, we're on this thing called Summer Worship Nights, this brand of tour that me and Brandon Lake created with our manager, Brandon Breitenbach. And 9,000, 10,000 people were coming out a night to these arenas to sing these songs like Mine, Battle Belongs, House of the Lord, Living Hope, and Lake. And his song Gratitude just exploded, and all these other songs. And I remember every night, me and Brandon, as the band is starting the intro to the night, we're looking around these arenas, and it's just full and sold out. And we're looking at each other, and every night we like have some tears in our eyes, just like, look at how crazy the grace of God is. Because just like anybody who is looking at themselves in a mirror and being honest, like we're so in line with the Gideons, with the Samson, the ones that aren't so unworthy to be raised up. We're so in line. We're just so human, have done nothing specially spiritual or religious to get here. We just, for some reason, God has chosen us to be here, and so we want to be faithful and responsible. And we're just looking around like, wow, we've got 10,000 people's attention. Like, God, help us to not help make it about ourselves. Help us to point people to you, to honor you with these next 2 hours of people's attention in front of us. And we could not believe it. We're so blown away every night, and it just continues to grow. And so I don't know. Remember what your original question was?
No,
I think it was like, how did it happen?
Even matter. I'm
just
so locked into the story. I'm like, this is
we're
great.
just like blown away, and it continues to roll on. And I'm just, the thing is, like, I would be doing it. It's not the success that keeps me doing it. Like, whether I was leading worship for Home Fellowship or a church or in an arena, it's just what I'm called to do, and I get so much satisfaction out of it. It's not other artists think like, wow, that I've talked to, that don't have the calling to write for the church. Like, well, you really like, you surrendered all that to the Lord so you could write songs for the church to sing. And I'm like, I didn't surrender anything. Like, I get the most joy and satisfaction as a songwriter. For me, I get when I hear the church is using it to sing new prayers to Jesus as a community. There's nothing like to hear. You mentioned CCLI, which is a weird way to put it, but when I see songs like on the CCLI charts connecting, which means that worship leaders are playing them in churches.
Yeah, and
it's better than a Grammy to me.
Is real quick, so folks that don't know.
That's a good question. You probably know more than me.
I mean, isn't it just a pool of artists that put together their worship songs and people can
what CCLI did, there's copyright, and it's kind of a gray area of like, our church is allowed to print lyrics of a copywritten song on their bulletins, or they're allowed to put it on the screens. What about streaming? Like, and to just do a huge umbrella license for churches. CCLI was really a service to churches, not songwriters. For churches just to come and get an umbrella license for their community, to say any songs that have been registered in CCLI, if you subscribe to this license, the Christian Copyright Licensing Incorporated, maybe
something like that.
And then you are kind of allowed to use this within your nonprofit organization. And so it gives churches legal like ability to use these songs in various ways. But it also, through the subscription model, pays back writers for the people that write these songs for the churches. And so it's a way to bless the writers. It's a way to help the churches.
Yeah, it's a win-win for everybody involved. Yeah. So you said something interesting. You said surrender, and how this is just what you've always done, right? Whether you were doing leading worship in a house, leading worship at a church, leading worship at a high school, any type of venue, this is always something you've done. But having grown up the son of a worship pastor and in the church and going to a Christian school, was there ever, like, do you remember just kind of always being in love with Jesus, or was there ever a point where you're like, okay, my family's faith has became my own,
Yeah.
And how young were you when that? I'm asking selfishly because my son is 9, and I'm like, dude, I don't want him to like go in the world and develop a testimony or have some gnarly crisis of faith, right?
Yeah.
And it seems like you're fairly well adjusted, and you've just kind of always loved Jesus. Is that a fair assessment?
I've always believed in God and always wanted to honor him. And I always thought that was he is reality. I'm sold out for life. Like, the reason why it all exists, I think the Bible gives us those reasons. The reason for life, I have yet to find a story that resonates in my soul as beautifully and truly as a story of God coming in the form of Jesus, dying for my sins. I know I needed a Savior, and I believe with all my heart Jesus is that Savior. And so, I grew up in the church. I think getting an opportunity to serve in the church at a young age when I was 13 was a huge saving grace for me. Not just because I loved it, but I think it just knowing that it was special and having parents that told me, hey, this is special, and like, don't, like, it can go away too. Like, your trustworthiness is such a huge part of what you do. Like, pastors, if they're going to invite you in, or communities, or they would just kind of really. I remember my mom talking to me a lot about it. Like, remember, like, if you lose your trustworthiness, like, people aren't going to want to put you in front of their congregations. People, like, so there's an honor and a trust. Like, you need, and then you're the only one that can be responsible for that.
Wow.
And I kind of carried that as a weight, because I really, from an early age, I loved when we moved from Orange County to San Diego is when I picked up guitar when I was 12. And that's when I found Jesus, really. I knew God, but when I found a relationship with Jesus, singing songs like I Could Sing Your Love Forever, Shout to the Lord, these 90s worship songs, just learning how to play guitar in my room, I experienced I was aware of the presence of God for the first time through these worship songs in my bedroom without I wasn't learning guitar to be in arenas one day, to be a traveling musician. I just had nothing else to do. I was just a lonely kid, and Jesus found me, and I found him. And even after my youth pastor had to shove me on stage to even get me to play. I was not wanting to be on stage. I would rather like be at home reading a Narnia book or something, But I remember after I kind of got over that fear and started learning these songs well enough just to worship. And I remember the first time I opened my eyes and I saw this crew of 20, 25 junior high kids around me all sing, like felt like the whole room was singing, and some were standing. And I just remember God's pleasure in that moment and just thinking, I want this for the rest of my life, you know? And that wasn't like, okay, now I'm going to do this. It was just like, I just want to draw people to God. I want to draw closer to God through these songs. That's how I find him. That's how I found him. And so just chasing that all my life really kept me from, I think, making some bad decisions. But that's not that I didn't have moments of like secret stuff, you know, like when computers and phones and Wi-Fi, you know, those were just coming into huge existence is when I first started traveling as like a 19, 20-year-old kid. You give a 20-year-old kid a computer and Wi-Fi in hotel rooms by himself, like you're going to do stupid stuff, you know? And that there's that time in my life where it's like, man, I'm like guilt and shame and having to confess and get through that. And like the Lord really used that to make me realize again how great his grace is in those early 20 years of just like creating this thing of like, I'm going to choose you. I'm going to choose purity. I'm going to choose holiness, you know? And so there's moments of like wrestling, but above all that, it never was like, I never had a disbelief in God. I always have had a really strong just sense of his existence, of his love for me, that he is the best for me. And so that thankfully hasn't been a wavering thing. I've wavered in my trust of humans and my idea of like certain, you know, I grew up thinking the way I grew up and the church I grew up in was the right way. I grew, you know, and then after you kind of grow up, you kind of, maybe some things get deconstructed. Like, was that Jesus or was that tradition? And was this what the Bible teaches, or was this what this specific stream of the church teaches? And where do I stand in this? What's Jesus in all of this? And why did I think that about those kind of people, that they were more sinners than those kind of sinners? And why do I put these people in that kind of stepping back of like, okay, like what is tradition? What is culture? And what is Jesus? And I'm still asking that question. Even now, as like playing in arenas and like lights and people call themselves fans of me. And I'm just, and even dealing with that, like, man, like, okay, Jesus, how do I want to be you in this and help me to be you in this. And when I think of the bigness of it, sometimes I can get like anxious of like, wow, am I doing everything right? And like, do I need to fix anything? I like when I think of in a big way, when I think of it a day-to-day thing of like, I just want to be generous and kind. I want my wife to have a ton of reason to respect me and to love me and to be proud of me. I want my kids to see Jesus in me. I want to talk about Jesus on a podcast. That's what I'm doing today. I want to ask the barista how they're doing. You know, I just want to be, it's a day-to-day, like, it's like what Jesus said is like, don't worry about tomorrow. Today is sufficient for itself. Just walk in the grace of God today. And I'm answering like 17 questions right now.
No, you're good, man. You're flowing. You should have your own podcast. I really mean that. I feel like everyone should have their own podcast. Okay, so what I love about what you're saying is that you essentially are telling me, hey, I was just faithful to what was in front of me.
Trying to be.
And I was content with wherever the chips will fall.
That's a gift I do think God has given me, is a sense of contentment. Yeah, because I think contentment is the pathway to flourishing. If you could first be content with wherever you are and whatever whatever season you're in, whatever platform you have, whatever it is, I think that's the heart that God can work with, right? Because if you're always like, I need more, I want a bigger platform, I need this, I need that. And when you just go, you know what, Lord, I'm just happy. I'm just happy to be right where you have me. And it sounds like that was ultimately, because again, there's levels to it, right? Like you go from, hey, I'm leading in a church, to now churches are bringing me out, to now I'm going to conferences, to now I'm selling tickets to my own thing. And now it's like, boom, 20 years later, you know, you're like an overnight success, but really not, because anyone who's been keeping up with your journey, like, oh, no, it took so long to get to this place, and now you're in arenas, but it really does come back down to you would be doing this regardless. I would be doing it regardless. I'm thankful I've always had this sense of this is way more than I could have dreamed. You know, when I was 20 years old and I sold 30,000 records out of the back of my car and I could buy as many PlayStation games as I wanted, I'm like, this is more than I could have dreamed, you know? Like this is exceedingly abundantly.
Yeah.
And then same thing, and fast forward, like to the arenas on the Summer Worship Nights tour, people are accepting Jesus all over the place. People are singing these songs. This is beyond what I could have ever dreamed. But that contentment, I also want to say, like, didn't mean that I didn't have ambition. Didn't mean that I love working hard. I love seeing things grow and connect. But like working hard, I try, sometimes it comes out of a place, if ever it's at an unhealthy place, for me, it's like insecurity and fear. It's not like, it's like, is this going to be around tomorrow? If it's not, like, this is how I provide for my family. Better keep pushing those reels out, or better keep saying yes to something, because who knows if it's going to be. It's that fear.
Yeah, that's scarcity mindset.
Yeah, like, that's which is what I grew up with.
Most folks who I think grow up the way we grew up, right? Like you grew up 1,200 square foot condo, right? I grew up, my father wasn't in my life, single mom. When God starts blessing the things we're doing, it definitely is like, all right, Lord, when is this going to be over? Right? Like, because this could be gone at any moment. Like, it is some of that scarcity of just growing up without much, and then just like, dude, this is beyond my wildest dreams. This is nuts, you know?
Yeah, and so with that, if ever it's unhealthy, it's that. But I love working hard. I love having a team. Yeah. That is all. I love casting the vision and putting wind in the sails and going for goals. It's all amazing. Yeah. And so when I say contentment, it's not that I'm just sitting back and God is just like, I'm like on a cloud going from door to door. It's like, there's a lot of hard work, and I've loved it. But
that's awesome. Let me ask you this. You said around the time of 2020, these songs were starting to really just kind of strike a chord, right? There's like the right songs at the right time. It's the zeitgeist of the culture and everything that's happening, right? Did you feel like those songs that came out, did it seem like God was kind of just giving you something different, like something different was flowing out? Or do you think it was a byproduct of just the time under tension, the repetition, probably writing thousands of songs, and then on your 1,001th song, all of a sudden, that's the record that does, a gajillion streams and goes mega viral?
Like, I don't want to treat 2020. So in 2013, I had a song called "This Is Amazing Grace" come out.
Yeah, I remember that.
And that was like the highest rising song on CCLI, and it was #1 on Christian. That was my first #1. Yeah. And it was years before. And so that, there was moments of like, wow, that's cool. But even in 2013, when that happened, the same week that song went #1, I had to get surgery on my vocal cords because I had a polyp on my vocal cord. It took me out for about 3 months. But the doctors were just being real, saying, hey, like, just be prepared for this to heal in whatever way it wants to heal, And so it was kind of like this.
Was there a chance you might have lost your ability to sing?
Yeah, that's a little melodramatic. I kind of want to say that, to make it more dramatic. But I would be able to sing. But there's a chance that it would change my voice, a chance that it would keep me from being able to have like the endurance of carrying hour and a half, 2 nights, 2 hour nights. Sure. But what it really did is it took me out. I had to cancel all this stuff. It revealed to me, and I wouldn't. It's hindsight that's saying this, because I really just was depressed and really down, and it took 3 months of processing. To realize it was the most depressed I've ever been in my life. And it wasn't because I had to be silent for 3 months. It was because I was kind of face to face with the idea that like what I do in my voice and my songs, the thing that people applaud for, that's what brings value to me. And like without that, like I just realized how much I was relying on people telling me I was doing a good job.
That validation.
Yeah, that was like the reward, and that was what my heart was kind of like thriving on, and God used that time in my life to kind of reveal that to me, and then for me to go to Him, not knowing that He was revealing it to me going to Him like why in my mind because I couldn't talk out loud, and I had to play at this. I was scheduled to play at this conference called Catalyst.
Yeah, I remember Catalyst.
Yeah. And it's like, it was something I was excited about because it's like 3,000 church leaders, and it's always people respond. It's, it's all these worship leaders in the room. It's going to be a beautiful night. Anyways, I couldn't do it. And so they said, hey, can you write out a little message? Let us know where you're at and how we could pray for you. We'll pray for you on stage. And so I was like, okay. And I was going to do like hey guys, like just trust in the Lord through this all. I'll be back next year. That was going to be like the positive things. That's what I've learned is what I should that's what I thought I should be. And then as I was writing it, he said, oh, I forgot to mention that the conference theme is identity. And when I saw that text, I had this moment I've had probably 3 times in my life where it's like God used that. It's almost like the lights dimmed. It's like, those moments on movies where like, it's just like the atmosphere changes. And I was so aware of Him. And it's hard to talk about it without getting teary-eyed because it was such like a real, almost tangible experience of so aware of the heaviness of God's presence and His kindness and His glory. And I felt like I was in a holy place, and I remember I was on a chair and I got low. I was just like, and I said yes. I just like acknowledged it, the moment, and I just had such a sense in my heart and my spirit, almost audible echoing through me. Is like who am I? It was this question, like who am I? And I remember thinking the first response was like, you're father. You're my father. It's like, what does that make you? And I just said, I'm your child. I remember thinking that. And then I remember the moment I thought that, like, it was such a God thing. Like, I saw these images in my mind of like God being there and taking care of me and being with me. And I thought of the cross and the empty grave. And I thought of the universe and how he lights stars on fire, and yet he's meeting me in this little back room in my house in my silence, and how like, it's like, I call you forgiven. I call you set free. I call you my son. Like this, and that reshaping of all the things I knew were true, but didn't believe and didn't let myself live in, like I started to live in it. And for the first time. And it's been a gradual growth in it. It wasn't like, whoa, I'm a different person, but it was like, I go back to that. I mean, hundreds of times in my mind, go back to that. Most times before I go on stage, like, this is the victory I stand in. This is the truth. This is who I am. I don't need to, it's not me doing anything special in the room. I'm just going to sit in the truth that I'm the son of God, and I'm going to sing from that place of gratitude and joy. And so that was really like this, I would say all that to, again, like, it sounds like a tangent from your question, but like, that was the beginning of me. I don't think anybody else could. The beginning of me really, my music shifting from like being an artist who worships to like, I can't wait to write songs for people to sing to. And so if you see my records, that's when like, just the last few, Living Hope was one after that, where, Living Hope really connected with the church, and a song called Great Things and a few others. And then, Hymn of Heaven, those songs. So I think God was using this couple decades of like learning how to write songs, but also like reshaping and like cleansing me of like, just getting into a healthier place spiritually, and understanding who I am in him, to be able to write just out of the joy, not writing like with this constant thing, like, are people going to like this, or what are they going to think this is cool? And like, yes, Lord, I want you to honor you, but I also got to serve all these other points. It's like, no, what does my heart want to sing to God who saved me? And like, I think people might want to sing this too. I can't wait to lead them. And so there's like a new freedom that followed those next couple of records. So that really helped, like, went into that your question. And so then the song Battle Belongs came around, which is funny because that was like so undramatic, unholy moment. My buddy Brian Johnson said, dude, I just saw my buddy I saw a tattoo, it was praying hands, and it says, I fight on my knees. It was someone's tattoo. And I was like, bro, we need to write a song. It says, when I fight on my knees. And I went to the piano and I sang the chorus. He's like, dude, that was it. And so that was like from nowhere, this song that we led a couple months later together on this tour. And it's like the whole room was lifting up their hands. When I fight on my knees with my hands lifted high. We knew we had something special. And I remember thinking, what is this song for? And then 2020 rolled around, and it's like, oh, this is a song for me and my family. Like, before we released it, like, I was washing dishes, turning off the news, just like, when all I see is a battle, you see the victory. When all I see is a mountain, you see the mountain moved. You already are on the other side of this thing, you know? So when I fight, I don't have to when weapons. I don't have to hold my opinions or my political stance. I could just like surrender it to you and worship, you know? And I think, and then when I put that song out, that was the first song off of that Hymn of Heaven record. That felt like it was just a huge, I think a lot of people felt the same way I did, that connect with that song. And then in the middle of 2020, I was so discouraged one night. My wife's like, hey, you say worship when you say give thanks and worship when you're discouraged and pressed, and it's a weapon against that. Like, why don't you do that? And in a tongue-in-cheek way, I went to the piano. I was like, again, we weren't meeting in my church. There wasn't any joy. And I went and I wrote almost like what I thought was a cheesy melody. There's joy in the house of the Lord. There's joy in it. And we're not even in. And then I remember thinking like, well, I think people might sing that. And so by the end, that song says, it's reminding it's who God is, who I am in him, and what he's done for us. It's like I just did that on verse, bridge, and there's joy. And by the end of it, I was just so pumped. That song ended up being like a #1 song and sung a ton in churches.
Wow.
Anyways, I'm talking so much.
I love it. You said, I think people might sing that. And I think I love that about your heart, because again, going kind of full circle to the idea of godly ambition, right? Like your heart is what's going to bless people, right? Not what's going to build your platform, build your castle, but what is going to build the kingdom of God. And it's about what do people need, and what are people going to sing, and how can you service people with your talent and with your gift. And I love that you shared this the aspect of having the #1 record and then having to have surgery on your throat. And what I find so interesting about that is, even though you grew up Christian, you're a worship leader, all these things, you still, any of us can still slide into like, my identity is defined by the validation of other people, right? And so I'm sure in hindsight, like the timing of that had to have been really interesting. God, like your #1 record and your voice might be gone, right? And then you can't do this conference, and it's about identity. And then the Lord just hits you with
it's crazy, right?
The timing
in the moment, nuts. I wasn't like, wow, God, look at God. In the moment, I was like, just going through a valley.
Right.
And now in hindsight, it's a beautiful story, because you see God in it. Isn't that so true?
And it seems like
situations?
It seems like going through that is what kind of enabled your shift on how you're approaching songs with really, you said initially you were an artist who worshiped.
Right? I think that's probably how I cared more about how people, I think deep down, I cared more about how people saw me as an artist rather than serving the church, which is, I actually don't think it's wrong. If God calls you to be an artist,
sure,
I think that's beautiful.
Yep.
But I think I was called, I've always been called. I remember the moment when I was it's another crazy one of those stories, but I don't.
No, share, bro. Go.
Well, okay. Well, I'm in the UK, and at this festival with this is the one time where I thought I wanted to be in a band, like in our band, and band's called Fairchild, with some of my best friends, and we had plans to be the next U2. You know, that was like our goal.
Yeah,
and we were writing for it and working for it, but the whole time, and it was a struggle, because I felt like I was letting my best friends down, just even internally, but. The whole time, I was also leading worship and just having so much joy and loving it.
Sorry to cut you off. Is this more like mainstream stuff, or is it still worship?
Yeah, it was mainstream.
So this is Phil Wickham, who's the worship artist that we all know.
Yeah, at that time,
is doing kind of more of like a mainstream, but it's
in
kind
my
of like
mind,
U2-ish.
In my mind, the worship stuff was like almost like a tithe. I was 18, 19.
Interesting. Okay.
And that was like, this is my thing to the Lord, but I'm gonna be in a cool band, and you know, and. But I had this like inner turmoil that I wasn't honest with myself or anybody else with, but I could feel the anxiety of just like this pull. Yeah. Every time I tried to do the band thing, I just didn't feel right. And I was like fighting it for like a year. And we were there, we had gone with the church group over to play at this UK event. And it was like this Christian thing, but kind of evangelistic. Anyways, it started raining really hard, and everybody had to move into what that was called the tea tent, very UK thing. But it was like, that's where they had tea, and it was tented, and they had like a little PA in there. And so they're trying to move the whole festival under the tent. It was pandemonium, crazy. They finally got like a mic and a guitar line ready. They said, Phil, just go up and sing some of your band songs. And I tried, and no one was paying attention, and it was like not even really working. And so I was just gonna quit until they had more stuff hooked up. And then the generator goes out, and the lights go out, and it's just like raining and no sound. And I remember so I went to the front of the stage. There must have been 2,000 people. And I started singing, I love you, Lord, and I lift my voice. And every Christian in the room that knew it it was just like everybody got silent on the blackout. And then they were all paying attention. I started singing, and they started roaring it back. Wow. And no joke, at the end of the song, let it be a sweet, sweet sound in your ear. Like the generator kicked back on. The lights came on. No joke. And everybody's like, yeah. And for the next hour, just the sweetest, none of my songs, just like the sweetest time of worship. Me and a guitar, and everybody's singing along. And it was like God used that moment, not even to say, I'm calling you as a worship leader. I really did feel like he was saying like, look, just open your eyes. See what's happening. Look in your heart right now. And I just realized how much joy I had in that moment, how much satisfaction, fulfillment, how I felt like I was right where I was supposed to be, just singing, "You are my all in all," just these old 90s songs, and that's when that's when I really felt like, okay, I think God wants me to write. I know this is where I'm supposed to go. I'm supposed to write songs for the church to sing. And so ever since that moment, I had this like sense of I want to have music that people can sing, and I've always had that. But and I think this is good. I think you should have this, like, the wrestle with like, but I want to have cool music. I want it to for the artists to think this is cool. I want the churches to sing it and the artists to sing it, and I think that's a great tension to have. I think we need more of that in Christian music. Yeah. But if it's for the right reasons, and I think it took some growing up for me to kind of get out of the sense of like, it was for a reason of like, I want people to think I'm a good artist. Like instead of I want to serve. Yep. It wasn't from a serving standpoint. Yeah. And that, I think that through maturity and learning and growing in situations and understanding just what brings peace and joy and satisfaction in life, realizing, like serving people with the gifts God given you is like pretty amazing.
Wow, that's awesome. And having things scale now to, again, bigger audiences than ever before, bigger streams, reaching more people, bigger social media. You kind of shared about even that tension now internally of like, man, like, is this, Lord, I want this to still be about you, right? And are we getting caught up in walking into an arena and 15,000 people sometimes singing my songs, and I'm on the stage with the lights behind me, right? Yeah. And it's this interesting tension you described. Talk about that a bit.
Yeah. Well, it is interesting. The bigger things get, the more people are there. There's just more to work with on every level. There's more to think about. There's more to reach for. It's like the success can breed more ambition of like, oh, well, this is happening, and maybe we could knock on that door and that door and that door and that door. And sometimes that cloud's like, oh, what is just simply following God's calling?
That's good.
Not let's not have ambition, but like I've had to work at keeping my heart simple. Yeah. I had actually a word. I have a lot of words from the Lord from people, and sometimes I'm like, was that from the Lord? Like people coming up. Sure. And sometimes it's like, like I have a word from the Lord. God loves you, and you're like. Well, I know that already. He already told me that in his word. Yeah,
vaguely encourking ones.
Yeah, like God loves you. He's got favor over you, and he's gonna bring you to new heights, like the deer. Like, great, I'll take it. I'll take it. I don't mind. Thank you. Yeah. But from a trusted friend, a little note just said, I saw you in church, and I had this real strong sense that that things are gonna continue to grow. And he wants you to read this. And it was short, but it was all about just like, the Lord loves your simple heart. And he wants you to cultivate that. Just keep it simple inside. That doesn't mean don't dream. That doesn't mean don't have ambition. Doesn't mean don't work hard. But it's like, what's the simple calling? What is the goal? Yes. It's like putting a smile on the Father's face, lifting up the name of Jesus, and pointing people to him, like through music. Yeah. And just let that be like the true north. And I at the time I was like, I know, like in my mind I was yeah, that's what I do. Yep. I do. I'm a keep it simple guy. Yep. But this year with the growth, playing in arenas, 10,000 people a night, bigger teams than ever, more expenses, more numbers than ever on everything. It's been, I've found myself having to go back to that and realizing how right on that was of like, cause it's interesting even cause as the success comes, it's almost like more success in me breeds more of a sense of like comparison of like, wait, and more of a sense of like, okay, what does arena feel? Sorry, I'm speaking to myself in the third person, but like, I know what I'm supposed to do in a church, but like, okay, how do I rise to the occasion now? Like, what do I look like preaching in an arena? Like, how am I supposed to, almost like this pressure to be something different or something more, or move around more on stage or have a more eloquent thing to say or live up to expectations.
Do you guys coordinate those little worship dances that everyone does? You know what I'm talking about? The bops? And
actually, after about half the tour, we never like talked about it, but because me and Brandon shared the stage a lot. Yeah. After about half the tour, we had little moments of things we did, like on fun songs, you know, but...
I feel like I saw no one doing that ever till like I saw every worship leader doing
Just
that.
like
the little bop. It looks
Yeah.
fly. I'm not mad at it.
Yeah.
But I'm like, that takes a degree of coordination, because not all worship leaders can dance.
It's probably like a Hillsong thing at first,
I think
right?
so. Yeah. I think so. That's awesome, man.
Yeah, and so just like I can't remember what I was saying exactly.
Well, you
but
just
as
talk
it
about that
grows,
tension. Yeah.
Yeah, and then like it's like the success almost bred more like what am I supposed to be now? Like I'm obvious if things are getting bigger, I'm supposed to be different, right? I gotta rise the occasion.
Yeah.
I need to be the Bono guy.
Yeah.
And it's like, oh wait, just preach the word when you open your mouth, but don't open it too much. Just sing the songs.
Yeah.
And let the Holy Spirit do amazing work, and just keep it simple. And that's my mantra for the rest of my life. Just keep it simple.
I love that. One of the things that I think a lot of people who become successful struggle with, and I'm sure you're familiar with this concept, is the concept of lifestyle creep, right? You make more money, and then all of a sudden you spend more money, and all of a sudden your taste increases, right? And all these things. And I think the tricky thing about music, from my experience, and again, feel free to push back on this, is I think there's a sneaky little phrase called industry standard.
Mm-hmm.
And industry standard can kind of like get just dropped on anything to like encourage people to take a bad deal. Well, 15% royalty rate, that's industry standard.
Yes.
You know what I mean?
Yes.
Like, hey man, like, no, you need a road manager and a manager of the road manager and a light guy and a light manager and a video guy and a video. And then before you know it, the industry standard is for you to ride around with an entourage of 25 people.
Just sucking you dry.
And 17 of them are sitting there doing nothing the whole night, or they're doing fake busy work, right? And so it's like the industry standard can incrementally increase the value, not the value, but like the need of a bigger production.
And then you feel pressure to
now you got to maintain this.
Yeah, yep. And I'm thankful that I have always personally, and I've had a team, and I think it's because I put the vision in. But I like to keep it simple.
Mm-hmm.
I've always, I hesitate to say anything. I definitely see some situations where I could see people like feeling secure with the thing they like with riding with a bigger entourage, or rolling in with a couple buses when you didn't really need to, or like bragging that we spent $30,000 on this music video, and in my mind I'm like, I spent $3,000 on this Amazing Grace. It's got 80 million views. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I'm like, and I'm pumped about that. You know what I mean?
You're doing less with more. I mean, you're doing more with less.
I've always, and it's probably upbringing, but also I think it's personality. I've always gotten a lot of a thrill out of like, how do we be as wise as possible with all that?
Yeah.
And so that's never, that specific thing is never, I don't think it's in my personality to even be tempted.
Okay.
Like, I'm like Amazon. I'm Amazon necklace right now. This is literally, I got both these. This is a $30 in
Nice.
both. You know what I mean? Same with this.
Yeah.
This is like, I think this is like $15.
Nice.
That's just me.
Yeah.
And it'll never change because it hasn't yet.
What I love about your new tour
This my
your
friend
buddies.
this is my buddy's real estate company.
Yeah.
This isn't like some secret.
I thought that was your merch. I was like, dude, this is sick.
This isn't some secret like, off-white situation or whatever. This is literally a present I got yesterday in the mail.
Yeah.
My buddy's real estate company.
What I like about your new tour is that you're going back into churches.
Yeah.
And you're structuring it in a way where it's not getting a time away from the family. You're flying into a region, getting a couple cars, hitting a couple dates, flying back to be with the family.
Yeah.
Talk about that. When does that start? And what are some of them?
I got a new album, came out in August called I Believe. And
Which, by the way, the aesthetic and the images and even what you're wearing on it,
just clean, right?
Very nice. Like aesthetically, it's super dope.
Thanks, I appreciate that.
Yeah, because sometimes
I'm a big part of that.
Yeah, sometimes the worship guys don't always dress the coolest. You know
well,
what I mean? You and Brandon are kind of like
it's changed a lot over the years,
yeah.
but sometimes I don't feel like I dress cool enough anymore because like elevation's all cool
now.
No.
There's levels to it. So here, not to derail, but here's my thought on this.
This is the best. I want to hear it.
I've seen hype beast culture that's supported by pastors cause a lot of young guys to be irresponsible with their finances at the wrong season.
I agree.
And so like, and the entire thing is goofy because wealthy people don't even flaunt what they're wearing, flaunt their wealth
Truly
what they're
wealthy.
wearing. Yeah, it's about quiet luxury. It's about not having logos of Louis Vuitton or Gucci all over you. Like it's actually not that because you don't want people to know that you're wealthy, right? So now it's like, the hype beast pastor has caused the kids to want to be hype beast, and a pastor might be able to afford it because they go and give each other $1,000 shoes at
Maybe have a
at each
book
other's
out or
church,
something,
or a book, whatever it is. And now the kids want to emulate that. And now the kids are being irresponsible and buying designer stuff that they can't really afford. And I just think it's just created a whole monster of materialism in the church.
Yeah, I think
know?
obviously social media has had a huge part. Because us growing up, like we didn't see everybody else saying this is cool and this is what you need to have.
Right.
I was just wearing my Old Navy and happy with it.
Yep.
You know what
I
I
was
mean?
shopping at Marshall's and taking the stickers off from the clearance
Not that there's
sections.
anything wrong with Old Navy.
And I mean, Old Navy
But
is
I would
dope
get
now.
like 3 t-shirts for $15 and be
Old
like,
Navy is holding down the Gap's business model. I don't know if you know that, but the Gap is struggling, and the explosion of Old Navy is what's keeping the Gap.
I've seen Old Navy pop up a little bit.
Yeah.
I actually asked my wife. I was like, hey, what are those pajamas on? She had a new pajamas. She's like, they're Old Navy. I was like, this was last night.
Yep.
I'm like, sick. They're awesome.
Me too.
Shout out to Old Navy.
So I think I say all that to say I think the aesthetic. I think there's levels to it where it could be a bit much, and then I think it's unhelpful in the sense of like you're demonstrating something that's not even attainable. Whereas like if you're wearing something that's cool and classy, but it's not designer.
Yeah.
Where like now kids want to be Phil, but Phil is in $1,000 pair of the hoodie's $1,000, the jacket is $1,000, the pants are $2,000, right? You know what I mean?
There's for me personally, I think there's a moment to spend money on certain things for certain moments.
Sure.
You know what I mean? Like a pair of boots that are gonna last you forever.
Sure.
Or like if you're like, man, I've always wanted a leather jacket.
Yeah.
This is mine for life.
Yep.
Or I'm going to an award show. It's like, you know what?
Yes.
I'm cool with that. But like, just to have a pair, it actually grosses me out personally. Not when other people do it. I can't. Maybe it's my upbringing.
Yeah.
I can't spend $600 on a pair of sneakers when I know there's more comfortable ones that look very similar that just don't have the. It's like all I'm paying for is that name. I almost feel like you can't trick me. You can't trick me. Whatever. I can't. Like Louis Vuitton.
Shout out to Preachers and Sneakers.
I'm not gonna let you trick. But I'm not saying it's bad. I'm not. Again, this isn't like a knockdown to anybody who likes it. Actually, it's a hobby for a lot of people.
Yep.
I get that.
Yep.
But for me, it's almost like I'm not gonna let you trick me.
Yeah.
That's how I feel a little bit.
Yeah. So anyway, I say all that to say, like, props to you for having a great aesthetic, dressing awesome without it being over the top, but also being cool. You know what I mean?
Appreciate you saying all that stuff. Thank you.
Yeah. So anyway, the new album.
Yeah. Okay. I believe
that's how we got.
We're going on tour. I believe tour 2020. Before 2020, we were talking about this earlier. The whole model for a lot of artists, for sure was for me was like you make money on that's like your income happens on the road. Everything else, the little royalty or little streaming or YouTube, whatever comes in, that's like cool. I get to play my electricity bill with that. I get to pay my But if you for your main source of income, you're out on the road, and so that really means like how I can. The more I'm out, the more we have to work with at home, the more we can build the business because that's where I make money. And that model changed in 2020 because we weren't able to go out for a whole year. And then, so we really focused in on, okay, what about like the merch store online and like what kind of things do people want to wear and support and what kind of things are people proud to say? We really rethought all that. We thought that we just thought about the YouTube page and like how do we grow that and really connect with people and do something not just for growth, but something that's going to really help people. And so we did these worship YouTubes almost every day. And we were posting all these covers of worship songs that really seemed to be connecting. And people were like looking forward to tuning in every day, and then Instagram, and as we were growing and writing more songs and working on music, we realized, this is whole aspect of my career of what I could do that we've been giving a second seat to the touring.
Yeah.
And so that was a really cool thing of realizing, touring doesn't have to own me. I can own touring. And I can.
That's good, man.
You know what I mean?
I think that's so helpful for so many young aspiring musicians that have been indoctrinated to think you got to go tour, you got to go be gone 200, 300 days a year to make any money. And
that's what I did at first. Yeah. And I mean, everybody's got to do what they got to do, but like for us, there was so many other avenues to connect with people and connect with more people that then touring became, okay, how do we continue what we're doing in 2020 and then have touring be an element rather than it's all about touring. And we just came up with a model. I told the people that are booking the tour, I'm like, I want to be gone one long weekend a month or 2 short weekends. So it's like either like almost like one Wednesday through Monday a month. So playing Wednesday night through Sunday night and being home Monday or 2 Friday, Saturday, Sundays.
Right.
So trying to be home away 6 nights a month, which is not a real. If you talk to a normal band, they're like, that's not a tour. Tours, you go out, you play 30 nights. And,
those are called like spot dates.
Yeah. But we thought, well, let's brand it as a tour. We'll do 24 dates over 5 months and see how it goes. And it worked amazing for us. Granted, it's more expensive flying people in and flying people out every week. We go out. Granted, we had to like, the show's a little less impressive with lights and stuff like that because you're not playing a show every day, you know? You have to adjust. But it worked. And I'm so thankful for that now. That's what we're doing on the I Believe tour. We're doing all the way through May, I think 24 dates. We haven't released the May dates yet. I think we will next week. And they're on sale now. Phoenix, I just heard, sold out. A couple other ones are sold out.
Come on.
And we're at churches, which I'll never stop doing church shows.
Yeah.
And the arena thing is great. Yeah. I love a good 2,500, 3,000 seat church. People coming in ready to worship. That's like my sweet spot.
Yeah. That's so cool, man. I'm pumped that you're back in churches. I'm pumped that it's not consuming you. I'm pumped that you've diversified your revenue streams. If you don't mind me, like what percentages would you say now is that used to be tour and now is tour? Like, and
a percentage of revenue stream?
Yeah, you don't got to, obviously,
Goodness, I don't know.
You don't got to get too detailed, but if you had to ballpark
I would say now it's like 50-50.
50-50. Okay.
Before it was like 90-10. Yeah.
That's great. That's amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah, man. That's good. I think that is not just potentially a blueprint for worship and Christian artists, but like for artists in general. Like you don't have to be gone and kill yourself on the road to make a living, a sustainable living, right? And if you're tapped into social media and you're tapped into merchandising and good merchandising that people actually want, I think you can.
Which I'm still trying to figure out.
I mean, I like the stuff I see from you. I think again, aesthetically across the board, I'm like, everything I see, I'm like, this is sick. Like,
cool. Thank you.
So I think
I could probably use your help actually.
You or whoever's with you, like you guys have great taste, and I think that's helpful. Talk to me about that tension of being gone from your family in the past.
Yeah.
And how.
And it's still there, even with that kind of touring.
Yeah.
Because I'm not gone.
Yeah.
So that does help. Like I'm still sleeping at home, but it doesn't mean I've got longer vacation times. It just means, okay, I'm gonna go do a podcast with Ruslan. Did I say it right?
You did, my man.
And or like I'm gonna go on a ride. I'm gonna have some writers in town. We're gonna write for 2 days.
Yes.
All the administrative stuff seems to get bigger, but at least it's more 9 to 5, and which is a huge help for my wife. We have 4 kids. And none of them can drive yet. Our oldest is 12. And so there's a lot of driving.
Tell us the age of the kids.
12, 10, 8, and 6. Penelope, Mabel, Lottie, and Henry. So our 4th is a boy. And they're awesome. And it's a lot. And 1 kid is a lot.
Yeah.
Just because there's a whole portion of your mind that they take over. Do they have the food, and are they taken care of? Are they being loved? And are they seeing Jesus? Do they know, like all that stuff? Whether it's 1 kid or 12, I would imagine. So that takes up some time. I forget.
Do you struggle with this?
I got off the original thing.
Well, we're just talking about the tension of family.
Oh, that's kids. Right. Well, I want to tell you. Something that happened recently. I was able to secretly record a song for my wife. For our 15-year anniversary, which was in November 2nd. Yeah, it's called Just Too Good. It's out on Spotify. I'm actually really proud of it. Yeah. We got the guy who mixes all of Billie Eilish's stuff to mix it.
Nice.
So it sounds awesome.
Heck yeah.
Yeah, it's legit. And he was into it too. I'm like, thanks, bro.
Yeah.
It's very, let's just chill, like got a beat and moody. But the chord, what we got is just too good, just too good. Like really kind of pop vibe.
Yeah.
And I was able to hide the whole thing from her until our anniversary.
Come on.
Which was awesome. Because we had a beautiful anniversary day, and at the end it came out on Spotify. So I gave her the cover of the single, which is just a happy anniversary note. That's what's the cover on Spotify.
Aww.
So I gave it to her in a frame. She's like, okay, because it's just like this cheap little handwritten note. Yeah. But then I opened up Apple Music or whatever, and it's there. And she's like, wait, what's going on? I played it for her, and she gave her the lyrics, and she could tell she was getting emotional, and I was like, yes, this is hitting it,
Yeah.
And then she's like, can I hear it again? That was beautiful. She's like, this is good. Like, she's like, this is sweet, but it's good. And so we played it again, and she put her head on my shoulder, and she said, Phil, like I'm a more believer than anybody else of what God has called you to do. I love seeing God work through you.
Yeah. So
I don't say this with negativity, but honestly, like, it is sweet. This is probably the first time in my life where I feel like what you do, I'm not in competition with. Like, for your time and attention. She has to surrender so much. Just anybody does, but she's had to sacrifice so much for me to go on the road and for me to do what I do. And also the extra stuff that's like, it's almost like worse, the stuff that people say or, I mean, it's been thousands of times, but like the amount of times people have come up to her, like, do you have any idea how blessed you are? Jeez. That kind of stuff. And I'm just like, you just ruined the rest of my day. Yeah. Like, especially because not only have I been gone, but I did something totally jerk like that morning. You know, I'm just a dude that just like was impatient and yelled at my kids or whatever, and like just did something so not holy that morning or whatever. Yeah. And now someone's coming up and just be like, you must be just the most blessed woman in the world. And I'm just like, you killed my day. Thank you, stranger. You know, and because I'm not just being a good husband saying this. She's an amazing woman and so faithful, so loyal, so consistent, which are all things I wish I was more of. So thoughtful, the best gift giver. She remembers what people say. She's just like so awesome. Let me just brag on her for a little bit. Like communities of women like are created because she is there. You know, they like gather around her because she's so rare in that she's a woman that has no secret motivation or insecurity, really. She just loves and doesn't think about herself. And it's like, it becomes this magnet of like women thinking like, oh, someone that I can actually be honest and real with, and without like having any kind of weird backbiting or knowing someone's going to be talking in the background. And she's just such a woman of the Lord and so cool. And helps me with my style. if you think I'm cool at all, she's the one. Anyway, awesome. So I love you, Mallory. Happy anniversary. Aww. But like that was the tension right there. Like, and it wasn't said with any kind of negativity or guile. She's just like, it's so sweet for the first time to not feel in competition with your music. Yeah. Like in the sense of like because I love writing songs and my mind so often will be, if I have a new idea, I'll be like, my mind will be, I'll have to force myself not to think about it, rather than the opposite of like, if my kids have like a dance recital, I'm not like thinking about that all day. And so,
yeah, I think what you're describing is, as a creative entrepreneur, there's the tension of when I'm working, sometimes I feel bad for working and I feel like I should be with my family. But then when I'm with my family, I'm still working here. And I think they pick up on that. Oh, yeah. You know, and so then I feel bad because I'm thinking about, you know, like I feel bad. It's almost like this, like, oh man, I feel guilty for working too much. But then when I'm not working, I feel like I should be working and I'm thinking about work stuff, which then creates this like this tension that you're talking about of like, man, you know, feeling like they're in competition. And because sometimes you can't shut it off here. Like I could turn my phone off. I could do all the things.
That's the thing, is it can't, or I don't.
Yeah, I don't know what it is.
I don't, because I think I can.
You think you can?
Well, I've proven, my wife would say you can't, but I'm sure I can if I just had enough self-control.
I don't know what it is. I think I've been trying to do this exercise. I've been trying to do this exercise of almost pretending like I'm time traveling. So pretending that I'm the 80-year-old version of me. And I wake up and I'm back in this season. Yes. And my kids, and I remember, oh, like look how cool my kids are at this age. She's 2, my son is 9, and he's not. And at this point, he's right. Like, and I'm trying to just like allow the present to be nostalgic. Ooh. You know, like really trying to do that, and that helps a little bit. You know, and not
when you think
like,
of it that way. Yeah, I do a similar thing. Just like, let me not be feeling like I'm a babysitter right now. Right. Like so often it's like, okay, I got to be with the kids, got to get this done. Then I can I need to have a bunch of errands to run. But like, instead of a babysitter, like, how do I like create a memory? You know? Yep. Because I know I know there's nothing in me when you're 80. Thinking back, that will regret that. Yeah. You know? Yeah. You'll do nothing but say, you'll regret not doing it. Yeah. 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 That's good, man. What do you think it is that causes you to tick ultimately? Do you think it's just DNA? Do you think it's the growing up modest? Do you think it's the Lord? What do you mean? Well, can you define ticking? You're a high performing
a high performance person.
Yeah,
And I don't mean performance as in you're performing worship. I
No,
mean
I
like
get what you're saying.
high octane, driver, output, grinding type of guy. Like,
Yeah.
what do you think that is?
I don't know.
You never thought about it?
I have, and I don't.
Is it nature? Is it nurture?
Yeah, I think it's. I don't think it's nurture.
Okay.
I've always just liked to succeed. I've always been a guy that, like, if I can't do it well right away, I don't like it, kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
Like surfing, and I wasn't able to,
same
you know.
I've tried.
I'll go
out
out
like once or twice, and I'm like,
yeah, I'll go out, but like I'm just like, is this worth it? You know, I like to do well.
yeah,
I like to succeed.
Yeah.
And I think I've always been competitive. But I don't think that's the driver. I have it in me. Always wanted to get good grades in school. I wanted my teachers to think I did a good job, you know. Just like I get satisfaction out of feeling like I put in my best, you know.
Yeah. That's
Like,
good.
I think it's I like the payoff of feeling like I couldn't have done better.
Yeah. What do you think the biggest misconception about Phil Wickham is?
I don't know. I don't think about it. What do you think it is? After you've known me for a day?
I think
people might think I'm like more stoic and more.
Okay.
I think people might think I'm more like
deep like a sage.
Yeah, not that I'm not deep, but I think I'm way more goofy, way more entrepreneurial,
Yep.
and calculated. And I think people might, because they connect with a song I'm singing about Jesus Christ, my living hope, which I 100% believe, and they connect in such a deep way with. I sing about the cross and the empty grave, and I think people might think I'm maybe more of what they would expect a 60-year-old pastor to be like. But then if you were to hang out with me on the tour bus for a weekend, you'd realize I'm the biggest kid.
Yeah. I think that's because I think people assume that like if you're a worship leader, if you're making Bible study content, Christian content on YouTube, like that, it's that all the time, right? And my wife will probably say it is. Like I really am this a lot of the time, but that's not always reality. Like there's also a human component. I also think that there's this tension of like, we talked about it a little bit, like the evangelical industrial complex and like the overlap of capitalism with ministry and like all of that. And I think sometimes people tend to assume motives, at least in my case, like they tend to assume that like this is a means to an end instead of like, no. Like I really read my Bible every day. Like I'm really in the scriptures. Like I really listen to worship music every single day on my way to the gym. And I sing these songs to Jesus. Like this is really a thing. This isn't like a means to an end of like an alternative economy.
It's not like in a culture I've found a niche in and I ascribe to now because it's a way to make ends meet.
Right. It's not like, oh man, the band that you were talking about didn't work out, so then you pivoted over.
No, it's like I had to do it.
Yeah.
And I realized that's where my joy is full. Right. And I just like don't want to be anywhere else.
Right.
And that wasn't like, okay, now I'll go get signed and become famous.
Right.
That was like, I was 19, I'm 39 now. And we're talking about we're kind of talking about my career just hitting in a way, which it's not. There's been a lot of amazing things, and I've always been able to provide for my family. Yeah, but it is it seems like a new level the last couple of years, and so that was 20 years ago that moment happened, and so then what that meant was like, I guess I will go record an independent worship album and see if my church likes to listen to it. You know, that was the extent of the ambition after that moment.
Yeah, that's dope, man. Tell everybody like what's next for you.
Yeah.
What can they expect? How can they get tickets to the tour?
Yeah, I believe tour. We'll be in everywhere from Florida, Tennessee, Illinois, Pennsylvania, New Mexico, Arizona, California, all over the place, Carolinas. And those tickets, you can go to philwickham.com. Y'all can follow me. I run a lot of my Instagram.
I saw that we met up and you're like on Instagram. I was like, you write your own Instagram?
Post. Yeah.
Gosh, I'm like respect. Man.
I don't do TikTok. I have a TikTok. I don't know how to even log in. I don't know the password. I have Facebook, same thing. But Instagram, I'm pretty involved with. So you can follow me on Instagram or all those things. But follow me on Instagram to keep up with the latest stuff. I believe tour is happening in 2024. We haven't announced it yet, but Summer Worship Nights is going to happen again in August.
Again.
Yeah,
Let's go.
It's going to be. I can't wait. We're already planning it. It's going to be amazing. And And then got an acoustic album coming out, which I feel like it deflates it a little bit to even call it acoustic album. It's like a reimagined version of I Believe coming out in the beginning of the year, and I want to show you a little bit because it's actually a vibe. Kind of folky beat. Working on a new book. That won't be till 2025. Man, there's other stuff happening too.
Where are you guys doing are you guys doing a San Diego Orange County date? Where's that going to be?
I don't know when the next SoCal date is, which I don't think it's Bakersfield. Is that Central?
It's Central.
Yeah. So Bakersfield's next California thing on the tour. We're saving Southern California for I think spring 2025, which is weird that you have to think about that now. But
interesting.
That's what we've been touring so much since 2020.
Is it just because the San Diego is a tough market for stuff, or
not necessarily? Like we hit it in August. I think we try to give 18 months.
Okay, gotcha.
In any market.
Okay, that makes sense.
So we hit San Diego on the last summer worship nights, which was August, and so which would put us to 6 months after August would be the next things. It's kind of the general rule we've been following, just to try to not to tire out a market too much. But yeah, we've got so much stuff going on, and I'm so thankful to be able to do it.
Final word for folks who are making Christian music or worship music, and they're like, dude, that's dope. I love what you're doing. Like, and maybe they're the 18, 19, 20-year-old version of Phil. Like, what advice would you give them?
Man, the most I've grown is just being in rooms with people that are more seasoned than me. Like, and that's sometimes hard to find, you know. So someone that's like in some way a part of what you want to be doing, whether that's like another artist or a guy that writes songs in the genre, like someone that knows in some way a little bit more than you about where you want to be.
Kind of like that next season ahead.
Yeah, whether that's a producer or a writer or someone in the industry or even a worship leader that's like, man, he kills it. Like it's like getting in rooms with those people, learning from them for sure in conversation, but also just like being a backup guitar player for someone, writing a song with someone. That's I think the biggest deficit we have, and the biggest, and it's really a skill, is people understanding how to write a song, especially young people. Like how to write, like I get melody, I get lyric, but how do you write a song from beginning, middle to end that like every moment built on the last, and especially for worship leaders, where like you really wrote something that's gonna light people's heart up, and something that you really want to sing, and something that makes sense, and something that even the way it feels coming out of your off your lips, you know, it just feels right for it to say. And after you sing it once, you don't actually have to look at the lyric, because it's just like you kind of know the thought before you. It's like really trying to find those things that just feel great to sing and light people's hearts up. And I think some people don't realize how much work that takes. Or I'll take sorry, this is a long word. I would just say hang out with people that have been doing it longer than you and learn from them, and have a thick skin and be willing to hear that some stuff you're doing is not great and this is how you can make it better, and learn from that. Like, I would say that was practically the biggest thing for me, being in rooms with people that know way more than me and have been doing it longer. Yeah.
Man, thank you so much for doing this, brother. We got to do this again. We're literally like 20, 15 minutes from each other, something like that. So at some point we should do this again, or do something together. I think it'll be super fun, man.
Dude, it's been amazing hanging out with you today. Dude. Breakfast was awesome. Yep. Swami's.
Yep.
Local place. And then you got an amazing spot here, and we'll see you around.
Thank you, brother. Phil, welcome, ladies and gentlemen.
Ruslan.
Look, sometimes people struggle with quiet time because you're like, I don't know what to do. Yeah, so I got this Bless God prayer journal. So look, they got a section. I got praise reports, things I'm grateful for, prayers for other people, personal prayers, memory verse, I will get this done today. Then my time in the Word showed me, and notes just for free thinking. This thing's mad helpful. Just writing down things that you're grateful for, just doing that consistently, that's another really good way to fight depression and anxiety, because it's I don't know if it's impossible, but it's really difficult to experience the feelings of depression and everything and truly be, genuinely grateful for something and dwelling on something that you're grateful for. This actually is really helpful for that as well.